Okay, it's a question about, I guess it's for excellence, you know.
Yes.
I know some people like this, like what they have, what we have now. It's about our drums. Because we have that an old drum. There was another one, and then we switched to electronic drum.
Yeah.
And as for me, I like it better because it somehow balanced the whole thing.
The sound, yeah.
The sound. So to you, what would be?
But the question, what's better?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a tricky. It's a tricky question because if you don't equalize the acoustic, these are acoustic drums. If you don't have them with good mics and really good soundproof, it will be too loud. And when it's too loud, you can't really enjoy it. So a lot of times, electric drums are better in small rooms like this. But there is a way that you can use this drum set. Like if you close it with a roof, you can put something on top and put it against the wall where it's more closed, and you use mics. Then it doesn't have the sound coming out. It's only coming out from the speakers with the mics, if that makes sense. And the sound of this drum set is better. But if it's not mic'd up correctly, it's not. So only if in a small room like this, I would say if you, like this, cover it, put it against the wall, and cover the top. Make it like a closed section. It's a lot of work also, but the quality sounds better. But if you don't have that, and you only, like your cymbals are not mic'd, so it just sounds really, really loud. So in that case, if you don't want to do all that, electric drum set is the best, is the better option for that. But either way, even with an electric drum set, you still need to have a good EQ, a good level of the drums for that. And there's really good electric drums now that even look acoustic, the design and everything, and they're very good. It just depends if you have a good electric drum set or not. So yeah, I would say we would have to just EQ that really well and cover it more, if you want to keep that, but want it to sound better. You know, does that make sense? Okay, so who handles the audio department? Yeah. Yeah, so you would have to get, okay. So right now you have a kick drum mic, you have an overhead of the snare, right? So you probably need a couple more mics for like the toms and for the cymbals. But you would have to close the drums, the entire section of the drums. Leave one door open that can close for a person to go in and out. And put it against the wall and put a covering on top. This will have barely any sound coming out, and you can control it better. Because right now, even though you have this, the sound is still going up, sides. And in a small room like this, it doesn't make a huge difference, you know? So either do that or use electric drum set. Yeah, it helps. It helps. So that's a very good question. Awesome. Does that answer? Yeah? Okay, great. Awesome. We can go to the next question. I think she had her hand first, and then we'll go with you, okay? Perfect. So tell us your name and then your question.
Yes. My name is Mary Tess, or a.k.a. Mai.
Mai?
Yeah, my question is, I'm not sure if it's just me, but I think you've missed part of the worship leader.
The what?
The worship leader. Like there was a thing about
A
worship
slide.
leader.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that if we have time after.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay. What do you want to learn about worship leader?
At least for the worship leaders.
Are you a worship leader?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second. Awesome. Okay, so she has a question here first.
Thank you for coming around. So my question is, yesterday you were really technical about like the mics and like the volume and everything. So I'm just wondering, like, what are you listening for, or like, how are you going about like adjusting everyone's like volume? Like, I'm sure, like, of course, the leader is like the most prominent mic out of like everyone else's. But how do you adjust everyone so like they like support you, and how you do yours?
So I think the best way to have a successful sound check is a few things. Each instrument, don't make any noise unless it's your turn. A lot of times everybody wants to be messing around while you're trying to get the vocals and everybody else is singing, and you can't get a good sound check. So you have to be, you have to learn the etiquette of sound check, and it's don't make any noise until the sound person asks you to make noise. That way you save time and it's more efficient and you can hear what's going on. So a couple things. The best way to do sound is to have in-ear monitors. And in-ear monitors are basically, that's why I have these little things, because it helps you to get rid of the stage ones, and each person gets their own mix directly from the soundboard. And you guys have a very good soundboard. You have the X32, which is a replica of the Midas M32, which is a beast. It's a really good soundboard, incredible. But anyway, there is a very affordable way to get in-ear monitors. The fancy ones are the wireless ones. The ones that are not fancy but just as good are the wired ones. And they're about $20 each on Amazon. So all you have to do is get some of those, connect with your soundboard, and then each person has access to having their own mix. And you can go one by one saying, like for example, I say, hey, can I get some of the piano, some of this, some of that, and then I'm good. And I don't have to count on this. I can hear myself better and all that good stuff. But if you don't have that, you can work up to it. And what I did yesterday is I go one by one, each sound check. Go instrument by instrument and play at your full volume, how you're going to be playing. A lot of times when a singer does sound check, they don't sing how they're going to be singing. They hold back like 50%. And then the song starts and it's super loud because they didn't sound check at the volume that they should have sound checked. So I always do a vocal check, and it's having the guitar, and we all sing a song, like a chorus, and we all sing at the volume that we're going to be singing. That helps the sound person to say, okay, this one's too loud, or this one's not too loud, and to give you like a good balance of what you're doing. Do you guys normally have different people leading different songs? Sometimes, yes, right? So you have to coordinate that with your sound guy. He needs to know who's leading the song, because whenever you're leading, your mic should be a little bit above everybody else. And then if I'm leading the next song, the sound person should bump my mic a little bit and bring yours back down. Because if you sound, when you're running sound back there, it's something that it's not like, okay, we did sound check, it's done, I don't touch it anymore. You always have to be, as a sound person, listening. I would recommend also when you're doing sound check, walk to different parts of the room. How does it sound out here? How does it sound out here? And if you're just in your booth, it's very hard to get like a good quality sound. But yeah, so go one by one, instrument by instrument, and then try doing one song together. Once you do the song together, you can get a feel of what's sounding good, if there's something that you can't hear, and then you do another brief check, and then you can move on. Because if you skip the sound check like that, and a lot of people, what they do is a line check, which is I just make sure that my instrument sounds, but they don't check the volumes of it, you know? And there's instruments that have to be louder than other instruments. Like, for example, if we're playing King of My Heart, that's a song that starts with the piano. So I would bump the piano a little bit for that, or make sure that it's very present, whereas the acoustic guitar doesn't need to be too loud. It's just complementing, but it's not like the lead vocal that's driving that melodic part. So it's something that you have to be very mindful of it, both as a band and as a sound engineer. Yeah, so does that answer the question? Awesome, a great question.
I have my microphone here. Thank you. Arnie gave me one. So you just answered my third question about the sound person should not be staying in the cubicle the whole time. He has to go around, right? To find what needs to be balanced. And
yeah, ideally, yes.
Yeah.
Or you have two people, one that's doing that and one that's, you know, switching levels and paying attention to what's happening, making sure. That's why they also need to know the songs that you're doing,
so
and kind of even practice for Sunday, because if they don't know the song, they don't know what should be sounding, what instrument should be leading right now, you know, what vocals should be up. But if your sound person knows the songs, then he knows what to look out for. That make sense?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I recommend doing that. And during practice, walking around, you don't have to overdo it, right? Just a few times. And once you're happy with it, you know, then you can lock it in.
So you cannot just depend on the earpiece too, right? The headphones in doing the sound check. You just have to get out and go around, right?
What do you mean?
You know, there's a headphone that they can use also to listen to the instruments
Yeah,
and the vocals.
yeah, but that's very different than what it sounds like out here.
Exactly, yeah, that's what.
That's pure, but you're not taking into account the size or the shape of your building, how many people are in there.
Yeah, so it's not
the
recommended
reverb.
to solely depend on that.
No, you can't.
Yeah,
because
so
that's
my second question is, we practice most of the time on Saturday afternoon.
okay.
Would you recommend the sound crew to be here also during practice?
I mean, if they can, it would be good, or at least leave it. At least have it set up, you know. But a lot of people I know can't commit to so much. But if you can, and if not, maybe train somebody else to do it who can. You know, I'm all about train people always. A ministry should not be depending on one person.
Yeah.
You know, like if you only have one worship leader, then they get sick, and then you're like, what are we doing? You know. yeah, exactly. So it's good to train people. I think that's a good measure of a good leader, is always training people and always empowering people to do the thing, you know. So yeah.
One more question. I'm
Go for
sorry.
it.
So since COVID came around, so we do live streaming most of the time, but now we're back. But I would like to ask for your recommendation, like when we watch the live streaming, maybe just a few times that the blending of the vocals and the instruments is, for me, is perfect. But there's a time when we start with the praise and worship and the instruments are not there or barely heard, or the instruments is too high and the vocals are really, you can
Yes.
barely hear it.
So
what's the recommendation for us?
How do you guys do your live stream? What software are you guys using? Vivix. Okay, so usually you have a separate mix for the live stream. And there's different programs that you can use. And there's already some resources online for churches that is like a template where it's already has really good EQ for live stream. And you can use that, because if you just use the audio mix from the board, it's going to be totally different online. And it's going to be usually not very good. Usually, like you said, either you can only hear the vocals or you can only hear the instruments, and it doesn't really sound good. But
Sometimes
when
it
you
gets so loud suddenly and it's so low.
yeah,
suddenly.
so there's different programs. I can talk with you guys later, and I can link you with some resources for that. It's all about just setting it up. Once you have your program set up, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to do it. But it's just yeah, technology is amazing, and if we learn how to use it and use it to our advantage, it could really change the quality of what we're doing and make it excellent, you know? So, yeah, we could talk after for that. But it's very important. A lot of people don't care about live stream audio, but the people who are watching it care.
Amen. Thank you.
You know? Awesome. Great question. Okay. Somebody else over here?
Hello.
What's up?
So especially like with the multi-track and like how you used it last night too. So like what's a like starter way like how to start playing with a multi-track?
Okay,
And
so I'm
also
going to give you guys a
hooking
little lesson.
up. Yay!
So I'm going to explain it right now. So there's a thing called multi-tracks. And the concept of it is, and I'm going to start off by saying this, that every big or medium-sized church uses it, regardless if they have 20, 30 people in their team. Every artist that tours the world uses this system. Every TV station, TBN, whatever, they use it. Most churches are using it now. I think there's about like 500,000 churches around the world that are using this system because it is amazing and it is part of technology. And what it does is, multitracks.com is a Christian company, and what they do is, let's say you have a song, right? You have, what's a popular song? King of My Heart, right? So you have King of My Heart, and you want to play King of My Heart. But what's the problem? When you play it, there's a lot of sounds that are missing, that are in the recording that make it sound great, right? And you might say, well, we don't have those musicians here, so we can't make it sound as good as it should. So what Multitracks did was they created a software where you can play along with the original instruments of the song, and you can pick which ones you want, and you can discard the ones that you don't. And the way that you play it is you can either do it with your phone or you can do it with a laptop or iPad, and you purchase the song. So let's say King of My Heart, right? Everybody knows it. And so what it does is it helps a band to play in sync with the track. So you play with, so the reason why I use this is because I have a click track, you know, metronome, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and this helps me to stay on the same speed of the track. And a lot of people are afraid to use this because they say, oh, well, I want to flow in the spirit, I want to do this, I want to do that. You saw today, we flowed, right? I did not stick to the song because you can loop sections, you can jump around, you can do whatever you want. So let's say we want to do King of My Heart. Okay, wait, let me take that out. First of all, you get a pad. You hear that? And a pad is like a little sound that's in the key that you're playing that just, it makes it sound better. So we're in the key of B right now. But if I take it off, right? It sounds okay, but it sounds so much nicer when I have that pad in the background. You know what I'm saying? Can you feel it? Okay, cool. It's a subtle thing, and you just use it in the key that you're in. So let's say I'm in the key of G, then I'll use a pad in the key of G. You guys feel it? Awesome. And it's so nice, and it's so simple. And Just need to tune my guitar real quick. So let's go back to King of My Heart. So I want to play King of My Heart, but I don't have my piano player. Or my piano player is not very good, but I want it to sound good, right? Just being honest. We have really good, yeah. You guys are killing it. Okay, so we're going to do King of My Heart, but I got to plug, okay, I'm going to plug this in. You're going to hear, first of all, what it sounds like on the click. You're only going to hear it in your ears when you have the system, and the track is going to be out in the main speakers.
1, 2, intro, 2, 3, 4.
Can you hear it? So that's what people hear. And it's like the sounds of the album. You don't put all the instruments in. You just put the pads, the synths, stuff like that that complements what you're doing. And it just helps a lot. Right? Because you are good. Sounds so much better. If I take it out, it's still good, but it's not like as, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not as good. Then I take the pad off, because you are good. You're good. Oh, you are good. You know what I mean? So it sounds good, and you can, and I definitely do times when I don't use the pad or anything. But having the ability to say, hey, I want to play the song and I don't have my keyboard player today. Or even though I have my keyboard player, there's like 6 other synth and pads and other tracks that are there that are the identity of the song that I want to use. And you can use it. And it's so simple. So that's what multitracks is. And once are you guys understanding the concept, right? It's pretty easy. So you can edit your song structure if you want to have 3 choruses, 5 choruses. If you want to have an extra bridge, you can do that. And it's very easy once you understand it. And I'm doing it all from my phone. I'm just connecting this right here, and this splits the signal. So one cable gives you the click, and one cable gives you all of the instruments that are coming out. And so the band would hear the click so that we can play along with the track. But if you guys are really interested in learning how to do that, I can send you some links to multitracks tutorials, and they go really in-depth with how to use it. It's not expensive to use it. I think my little interface was like $30, and the cable is like $10. So with like $50, you can completely revolutionize how your audio quality sounds. Right? But it's like you just have to like commit to learning to play with the click, because that's the hardest part, disciplining yourself, especially the drummer. The drummer has to be on the if you speed up, if you're too slow, you're going to lose it. Yeah. And the only way to learn it, I mean, you know it already, but you have to practice with it. Practice with that every instrument, practice your vocals, and it's just good discipline. Regardless if you're using that or not, as a musician, learning to play with a metronome is one of the best things you can do. So, yeah, that's Multitracks. Multitracks.com. You can also buy my music on there. So, I know. You can put the discount code Baruch, and you get 10% off for the next 30 minutes. No, just kidding. So go buy it now. Cool. Any other questions? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. It's okay. Did that answer your question fully? About the? Yeah, it's an app. You just download the app from multitracks.com. You can use it on your laptop, and yeah, it's pretty easy. I highly encourage you guys, honestly, to learn how to use this system. I'll send you guys all the resources that you need the tutorials. And if you can upgrade sometime to in-ear monitors, like I said, it's not expensive, but it really changes how your team works. Because the other thing you can do is, once you have in-ear monitors, the whole point is that these things are in your ears, right? So the church doesn't hear the click, they don't hear the cues which says chorus, 2, 3, they don't hear that, only you. But also you have this thing which is something that we use, it's called a music director. It would be, for example, RJ. And you have your microphone, but nobody else can hear you but the band in their ears. Does that make sense? So he's able to guide the band and say, hey, this is where we're going. We're going to the chorus. Let's start the new song. 1, 2, 3. And it's subtle, nobody else can hear, but it guarantees that the band is always on the same page. And it's really good. So I'm going to talk real quick before, if we have any other answers, I just want to explain that after the question. The question is, if I'm leading praise and worship and I don't have anybody to back up me to lead it, could I do also like the second voice? On the multi-tracks, or what do you mean? No, when I'm leading, I'm the worship leader. When you're leading worship, okay. Yeah, the harmony. Instead of knowing the vocal, which is the normal voice. Yeah. Can I do also a second voice, like I make a different? Yeah, you want to harmonize throughout the whole thing or just a part? What's a part? What's I'm reading? Yeah, so you want to jump to a harmony, yeah. But for all the song or just for a small section? Yeah, you could do it. I did that today. Remember when we were doing, like, when we were doing, even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. Na, 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 na. And then I went to the harmony. I was like, 'cause even when I don't feel it, you're working. Even when I don't see it, yeah, you never stop, you never stop. You know what I mean? So I brought in the harmony and brought it up a little bit, but I brought it back to the melody. So you always want to tie it, if you do that, you want to tie it back to the melody. Yeah. But yeah.
How about the after time?
Altar time.
The after time, like you sing and then you're the only one. Then you do there's a song, right? That you do like the after song. Exhortation? No, it's part of the song.
Oh, like when you bring it down?
Yeah, and then you repeat it. And then sometimes
Yeah, like go back and forth.
yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, I like to flow, you know. So sometimes we do a big chorus, and then I'll tell people to bring it down and encourage the congregation, sing it with me, you know. And then just the acoustic guitar, and then I'll sing melody with them. And then I like to mash up songs also, so that a lot of times one of the things that are weird in worship teams is that they have very abrupt pause between songs. Like they'll want to change, they're in Waymaker, and then they finish, and then they want to go to a totally different key. They're like, you know, and they stop, and it's weird. So I usually like to stay at least 2 songs in the same key, and then not break the flow, you know. And that helps when you have a music director who can help you guide through that. Or if you're the worship leader, to be vocal about where we're going. You know, don't let people guess, you know, lead where we're going. So, yeah, that's why I do that. Yeah. Does that answer the question? Yeah. Yeah? Awesome. I know you had a question too? Yeah, I mean, like the principle is always like, don't overdo anything. You know, it's good to have ad libs, and like especially when you're speaking to the congregation, because that's the whole point. You're leading worship. You're not just singing. So you have to encourage people to sing with you. Come on, let's sing it again. Or he's a way maker, you know, and you just say things to like push people into that place where they're free to worship. But you also don't want to say it after every sentence. And there's, you know, there's some people who overdo it. And so then it's just weird. So you don't want to make it weird, but you don't want to go the other extreme where you're just singing a song and you're not saying anything. Because then it's like, well, why don't I just listen to the recording? I need you to lead me to where we're going. So telling people, come on, lift your hands, or come on, let's sing, every voice. You know, there's things you can say that encourage people. And you see it. Like when I tell people, come on, let's lift our hands, most of the people will lift their hands. And you have to guide them, because a lot of times there's no such thing as a bad crowd. There's just bad leaders. And that's a principle I learned from John Maxwell. He says, a lot of times people will say, oh, it was a tough crowd today. Nobody wanted to worship. Nobody said amen. Nobody was engaged. But people mirror you. And that's a powerful concept to understand. If you're up here and you have zero energy, you're not talking to people, you're just kind of boring, people are going to reflect. People are going to give you like 20% of what you give them. You know, 20 to 30% of the energy you're putting into it, people are going to give it back to you. So if you're excited, if you're speaking to people, if you show passion in what you're doing, people can't help it but mirror that. It's actually even scientific. We have these things called mirror neurons in our brains. That is how we communicate since you're early, and that's how kids know when their parents are angry, because they can see the anger in their face and then they mirror that and get, you know what I'm saying? So it's in our neurological makeup to even do that. So we can channel all those things and understand those concepts and use that for helping people meet Jesus. You know, so bring energy, bring confidence, and that's why preparation is so important, because you can't be confident unless you're prepared. You can't. And you can't bring energy unless you're confident, because you're not going to have fun with it. So ad-libs are good, but not overdone. And make sure they make sense, too. When it's overdone, it's like, I think when you repeat a chorus 50 times, there's some people who want to stay on the chorus like 10, 12 times. Come on, church, let's do it again. Let's do it again. And then, okay, one more time. And then you do it again. You're like, okay, one more time. And then, honestly, and then it's like, okay, we heard you the first time. Like, so that's a good example. Or you also have the ad-lib where the worship leader says the first line of the next verse. Does that make sense? So, for example, we're going into the bridge of even death could not hold you, the veil tore before you. So you could say, like, come on, death could not hold you, and then you go into it. It's okay if you say it once, but you don't want to be repeating the ad-lib for every next part. Come on, you have no rival. It's like people already know. You have the lyrics. The lyrics are there. But it's good when you're establishing the section. So if you're in the chorus and you need the people to know, we're going to the bridge, you need to let your band know we're going to the bridge. I would say, come on, death could not hold you. And then people know that's where we're going. But it's not a thing of like, hey, I need to read you the entire lyrics of the set. Yeah. That's tricky because first of all, I think it's up to like the leadership of the church if you give the freedom to do that, and then also who you trust with to do that, because there's a good way to do it and then there's a bad way to do it. And I've seen most of the time it's kind of like somebody will try to be very spiritual with what they say, but they didn't practice what they were going to say and it doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? So like somebody would be like, like for example, you're in the middle of a song and then they're like, okay, let's pause for a second. You know, this morning I was in my car and then you know, and then I was listening to the radio, and then they talk about 10 different subjects, and then it's 3 minutes later and all they wanted to say was, well, all that to say, God is faithful. You know, it's like there's ways to say things, and you can encourage people. And I think you've seen the last couple of days that I do speak to people. Sometimes I do say something in between, but it's never like a message. You know, it's just like some words of encouragement, and also most of the time I know what I'm going to say. You know, it's not, sometimes it's improvised, sometimes it's conviction. I know principles I already know, and I'm just reminding myself and reminding the church why we're doing this. So I personally like to not say stories during worship, because many times it disrupts people. It takes them out of the deep place of worship they're already in and brings them back to like, okay, now we're talking. And then you try to bring it back to the deep place and the connection is like interrupted, you know? So, yeah, I would just be careful with it, but definitely encourage people and yeah. Okay.
What about with worship? If I do this, guys, sorry. There's times where you yell so loud, and I feel like sometimes that disrupts the flow of things. How do you feel?
What do you mean by
about,
yell?
I don't know,
Like
the
singing
high
yell,
pitch,
or like?
Yeah, it just goes all. So it's like when we're worshiping, and I guess the leader kind of hits the highest note, and you're like, oh wow.
Wait, who?
So, I don't know.
I'm just kidding.
I don't,
Point at
but
them.
It's just, you know, it's just, what do you feel about that? Does it break the flow where
Somebody yells?
Is this well, sometimes.
Like if it sounds super loud in the mix?
Yeah, in the midst of worshiping, and then they just hit the high note, and you're just, it's a little.
If they hit the high note?
Well, no, it just sounds a little off.
Okay, I think I might know what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I think individually it's good to know your voice and know what you can do and what you can't do. And that's the biggest journey of a singer. It's like, know what keys you are comfortable in, know which ones are going to strain your voice, and get really good at where you're comfortable. Like, I know for me, I'm not a tenor, so I can't sing most of the songs in the original key. Like Waymaker originally is in like F. That's like 2 full keys from what I play. I play it in B, and even B is a little bit of a stretch. If I tried playing it like the album in F, I would need to apologize to you guys in advance. It would not sound good, and my voice would be strained, and it'd be terrible. So know your voice, mess around with it, know where you're comfortable, and stay in that sweet spot. And then with the volume, you always have to know your volume. Different people, like my voice is not super strong. There's some people who have a super strong voice that are overpowering, and that's why your sound guys need to know that too. And you have to sing out like you're going to sing during sound check. And then also, like when I hit a high note, I'm not hitting it with the mic right here. I get away from it because obviously it requires more breath and there's going to be more power. So the dynamics between you and the microphone need to also change. You can't sing every song right here. The higher up you go, you can, you know, you can just use your body to manage that volume. But a lot of people do the opposite. They sing a high note and they get closer to the mic, and that's when it's like, ugh. That's weird, you know? So high notes aren't bad, as long as you're doing it in that sweet spot and that you're managing your volume well. Because you can't leave it all up to the sound guys too. It's impossible. But there's ways that you can manage, like even with your harmonies, you don't want to be singing out your harmonies super loud. You want to know your dynamics, know when to shine, know when to bring it down. And that requires practice, knowing yourself. So... Okay.
So my last question would be, you were talking about that, you know, we're all called to worship, we're all worshipers, but then do you think, or like maybe could you speak on like if there is a difference between, you know, we're all called as worshipers, but then there's also like, you know, like the worship team, and then how can people really discern if this is really like truly their calling, that like, you know, to be a part of like the praise and worship team and to lead?
Oh, that's a great question, because one of the problems sometimes is when somebody wants to be in the worship team but they're not very good at it, right? And then you feel weird saying no. You know what I mean? Is that what you're referring to?
I mean, you could speak on that too, but maybe also like if there's like, you know, lack of like commitment and discipline to really truly like I like how you were saying like, you know, like it's your problem, like, you know, like everyone's a part of the team, it's your problem that you should also be like caring about.
Definitely. So I definitely, that goes back to the standard in your team. And this is something, like I said, it's the culture of your team, and it takes time to build. And it's not something that you can just say, like, these are the new laws, so if you don't follow these laws of the team, you know, you're out. You can't do that, because it's a culture that you have to build, first of all, through example, and second of all, through time. So if you want people who, you know, care about the team and come prepared and, you know, aren't doing so many problems and take ownership, they have to see it first. You know, they have to see it in the rest of the team, and they have to see it in the leaders of the team, the worship leaders, whoever's leading, they have to see it there, because if they don't see it there, they're not going to have, you know, a template to follow. So first of all, they have to see it. Second of all, you have to speak the vision constantly. You have to remind people, this is who we are, this is what we do, and this is where we're going. And if you're up for the ride, we'd love to have you. If you don't want to commit, well, maybe that's not the right ministry for you. As hard as that sounds, there's so many people that have left teams that I've been because they just couldn't rise to the standard. And it's a hard conversation to have with people. Obviously, you give them chances, and you say, hey, we're going to work on this, right? Are you committed? Do you want to do this? Okay, let me help you. Let me give you the resources. But if it becomes a continual thing, then maybe some people take a break for a little while, but they have to see it in you first, because you can't demand something that you're not doing. So if they don't see it in you, trust me, there's no like worship team handbook that you can make that's going to fix it. They have to see it in you first. If you want an excellent team, you be excellent. If you want a team that's prepared, you have to be prepared every single time and guide people. If you want a team that doesn't complain, that builds, that encourages, you have to encourage people. You have to build them up, because it's all about respect ultimately. Do they respect the leadership? And if they respect it, hopefully they will automatically be following that culture without you having to babysit them, because that's the worst kind of thing that you can have, is to just constantly be babysitting someone, because it's frustrating on both sides. But if you can build this culture, like we've been talking about, which takes time, and you get new people who come in who feel privileged to be a part of something that has a really good structure, that has good leadership, that people who are part of it care about it. And once everybody else starts caring, trust me, you're not going to want to be the only guy who doesn't take ownership, who doesn't come prepared. So it's a collective responsibility, but also individual responsibility. And then not being afraid to have tough conversations. A lot of times in church, we don't like tension, right? Especially with people. But it's okay sometimes to have those conversations and to check up on people and just remind them what we're about. And if they're up for it, awesome. Let's keep growing. If somebody doesn't want to rise to the occasion, like I said, in my experience, if I didn't rise to the occasion in the teams that I've been with, I would not be there anymore. Or I would, they maybe wouldn't have said anything. They would just got somebody else to be part of the team. There's a bunch of people waiting to be a part of something amazing. So when people can sense that, then they value the position that they have, and they don't want to lose it, so they're going to care about it. So does that make sense? Okay, cool. Does that answer? Okay, cool. So yeah, I just encourage you. You're awesome, and don't be discouraged when you don't see results right away, because it takes time. But you have to be firm with your team's culture. Like, who are you? What do you stand for? And if you don't have those conversations, it's hard. That's why a lot of people do what they call team night. which is like once a month or twice a month, and it's just the musicians and the creative team, and you talk about the identity of the team and the culture of the team, and you encourage people, you hang out, and you just reinforce, like, this is who we are, this is who we're not. And that's my perspective on it. I hope that's encouraging. Yeah? Awesome. Cool. Any more questions? Don't be shy. I won't take any after. And it's okay if you don't have any more questions. Did everybody understand the concepts that we talked about today? Yeah? Awesome. Cool. So if we don't have any more questions, I just want to talk about a couple more things for the next 10 minutes, and then we'll wrap up. Does that sound good? Perfect. So do you have those slides that we were doing? Can you go to where it says worship leader and music director? It's like the last two slides. Yeah, there we go. So I'm just going to briefly touch up on this. Remember what I was saying about the music director who has a microphone who can speak to the team? Yes? And then you have the worship leader. So I usually say the worship leader leads the congregation and the music director leads the band. And it's two jobs that can't be done by one person. So essentially you want to build a team where you have a music director. And even if you don't have in your monitors yet, you can start using this concept where you assign responsibilities. So usually this is like one or two of the most gifted musicians that you might have that you can trust with the place, where you say, hey, you're the music director for this week, and I'm the worship leader for this week. Let's get our songs together, and you're going to help me lead the band. So when let's say, RJ, you're the music director. I want to do these 3 songs. Okay, cool. These are the keys. You talk about it. You create a good idea for Sunday. And then when you come to rehearsal, after everybody's already practiced, you can help navigate how we're doing transitions. How long are we here? How are we coming into it? You know what I'm saying? And the music director can help that, because the worship leader needs to focus on leading the church. It's very hard to lead the church and lead the band all at the same time. So you're basically, as a music director, you're like the backbone of the operation, you know? And it's something beautiful when you can learn to do both things. The music director essentially will pay attention to the worship leader. So for example, let's say I'm leading a song, right? And I want to go to the bridge. I would give you the signal that I'm going to the bridge, and then you would communicate that to the rest of the team. Because it's very hard. You know, like when you're trying to communicate to the drummer, he's never looking. Usually. Or somebody, or the keyboard player is just doing their thing and they're not looking and they miss the call. So when you have a music director, this helps you to stop that, because you only have to get his attention, and then he speaks to everyone, and then everybody knows, like, okay, we're going to the bridge. And every time it sounds good. So the other thing is the worship leader and the music director, you both have to trust each other and always be open to good ideas and the best ideas. So there's many times where I have an idea for a set list, and then I speak with my music director, and he's like, bro, that's not gonna work. That doesn't make sense. Like those keys are not correct. Those tempos don't work. Why don't you try this instead? And then together, collectively, we create a really good set list. And we use 2 heads, you know, it's better than 1. So always I would say, if you start using that structure, if you have worship leaders, but you also have music directors, it just gives more power to the team. Amen? Awesome. And the last thing we're going to talk about is how to build a set list. Nobody really talks about this, but I like to talk about it. Okay. Psalm 100 says, enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name. Usually what we think is that we choose too fast song, too slow song. And that's like kind of our standard for worship. Okay, we got to use two praise, two worship. Doesn't matter what the lyrics are, doesn't matter what it's about, it's just too fast, too slow. Or one fast, one medium, one slow, one really slow. Or just one Bethel song, because that goes everywhere. You guys know what I'm talking about? Yeah? Okay. So I know that's how I used to do it, and it was very wrong. So you have to be actually very intentional with the lyrics of the songs. So song 1, I say it's a song of thanksgiving and praise. A song that exalts Jesus and loves Jesus. Why? Because we enter his gates with thanksgiving. So a song that does that, it's also very welcoming to people. You got to always keep in mind, people come to church for the very first time. People come to church, tired from the week. They want to say thank you to Jesus that they made it. Number 2, I like to play songs of declaration. Songs that are affirming and truthful. So what's a song of declaration? Okay, so number 1, we did thank you, Jesus. Number 2, we're thanking him for specific things, and we're declaring who God is. Like, for example, waymaker, miracle worker, that's all a declaration. Like, you're the king of my heart. You're never going to let me down. You are good. That's all declaring. Number 3, I like to do a song of surrender, because it's a song that it basically focuses you on repentance. It focuses you on away from yourself and more focused on Jesus, and to be still in the presence of the Lord. And number 4, I like to do a song of faith and revelation. And what this does, it takes the point and the focus back to God, and it sets the table for the message. When you prepare that last song, and it's a song of bold faith, people are ready to receive the word. People are ready. And a practical way to do that is, besides the themes of the songs, think about, like, who's on your team this week? Can they play these songs? What's the musician level that we have? Okay, number 1. Number 2, consider the time that you have for the set list. Okay, well, we have a 30-minute worship set, but we want to do 7 songs. Is that realistic? No. So we're going to do 4 songs, or we're going to do 3 longer ones, So take in consideration the time that you have. Number 3, consider the keys of the songs, the transitions, and the vocal range of each singer. When you choose the key of the song, you don't just choose the song of the album. You have to make sure that you can sing it in that key. If not, you pick a lower key or a higher key. But make sure you're intentional with it. If you're playing a new song, make sure your team has enough time to learn it. Right? A lot of times we're like, hey guys, there's this new song that just came out. We're going to do it on Sunday. They're like, I didn't even know that was a new song. So give people enough time to learn it, to practice. Always be intentional, and always, be mindful of your transitions and how you're going from song 1 to song 2, song 2 to song 3. How are you starting? Got to make sure that it's a strong start and a strong finish. And I think these are the principles that I use, and if you begin to use them, you're going to see that it feels better, it sounds better, and the message has more impact, because honestly, there are a lot of really dumb songs out there that have nothing to do with worshiping God. They're all about me, me, me. What you've done for me, what you can do for me, thank God for me. Like that video. I don't know if you guys have seen it. But anyway, you have to filter your songs. There's songs that are for radio, and there's Christian songs for radio, and there's Christian songs for church. Make sure you're doing church songs at church and not radio songs at church. And that's all I have for you guys. I'll leave room for 1 or 2 more questions if there is. If not, we'll wrap it up in prayer. Of what? Yeah, sure. I mean, are we recording? Because I don't want to put my friends on blast. Yeah, I mean, I know most of the songwriters, so I can't say that. But think about any song that's just like me focused, just songs that are not about God, but more about me. Always read the lyrics and be like, is this about me or is it about God? you know, and you want to do songs about God because who are you worshiping? You're worshiping God, right? So that's what we want to do. We want to bring the focus back to God. Of course, there are some songs that say you've been good to me, and that's fine. But if it's a theme all throughout that it's just me, 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 and stuff like that, then I would suggest not really going that route. So, Pastor?
It's in your devotion, like maybe I'm responsible for me here. How to pick up the right song. I think you.
Yeah.
And then there's another thing here. What can you say about our lighting and sound?
Oh, yes, yes, definitely. The lighting is good. I would say you guys have these machines, right? These LEDs, and they're nice. You guys have a really good soundboard, but I think you're only using like 5% of the ability of that soundboard. That soundboard, like I said, is a monster. Like, you have that in the biggest venues for thousands of people. And if you guys can commit to learning how to use it, there's a lot of tutorials on YouTube. Or even if you hire a sound engineer to come for a day and just give you guys a deep class on that console, and that's very beneficial. That's what a lot of churches do, because obviously you work with volunteers, so you don't always have a professional sound person. But if you hire somebody to come for a day and teach you guys the basics, the ins and outs of the soundboard and how to EQ really well, that makes a big difference. And if I were you, I would record that session with him, record the audio, and review it. And there's many people you can reach out to, let's say a bigger church that has a professional audio team, and just say, hey, can we borrow one of your audio engineers to come during the week and just give us a couple hours, of a tutorial, and that would really help. Because, like I said, I think there's so much more potential in that soundboard than is being used. And then in regards to the lighting, it kind of depends what you would like to see in the stage. Do you guys dim the lights during service? Okay, so usually it's good if you dim the house lights, because if not, it's pointless to have these because you can't really see them. So you can dim those lights, and you can have these on, you can have those on too. And if you really want the lights to pop and see them, you can get a little bit of a haze machine. Not crazy, but just there's like a low-hanging haze, and they sell this at Guitar Center. The haze makes the lights pop. And you do this before service. You're not throwing it. It just stays there. You just do it a couple times, and it kind of hangs in there. And it makes it would actually look very cool, because it would, make those lights pop. And you guys have good speakers. Regards to the sound, like I said, if you can get it in your monitors and get rid of these, what you could do is actually, if you really want to go that route, you could sell these and buy the in-ear monitors, and you'll actually have extra money, because it's cheaper to have in-ear monitors than to have these. And it's much more efficient. You get a better EQ. Because right now, the problem is you're getting the bounce from the wall of all these things. So it's even hard to EQ, because you're competing with the main thing and the monitors, but people still need to hear themselves. So, just changing those little things is really going to help. I know what a lot of churches have done too. If you don't have the budget for it, then what you do is a lot of people say, okay, we're going to just make a car wash as a worship team, we're going to save up some money, and we're going to do it. And like I said, it's not expensive. It's just technical thing of learning how to do it. And that would be a huge change. It's always good to, yeah. No, I get what you're saying, but these monitors are designed for the band, but we don't need it, because you already have very big speakers like the JBL. Those are great speakers, so you don't need more than those two for the entire church. And then that would be my suggestion with that. Yes. Yeah.
Because there's some, you know, some of the old school people wanting to turn off the lights. To disrupt the Holy Spirit. And so,
Well, one thing is you will never make everyone happy, and that's the thing. I mean, you always want it to be safe. Make sure people can actually see. You don't want it to be too dark, but yeah, change is good. You know, change is good.
lights in the background. Like sometimes the youth want to play with it and change the colors.
Yeah, you can change the colors.
It should be fine, right?
You can change the colors.
The song leader, the leader says, okay, we're going to change it. We're going to go for green today. We're going to dim the lights.
I mean, it's really up to personal opinion. However you want. If you want green, blue, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I think you guys have a good setup. Just moving some things around and making a few changes, it could make a big difference. You know, so I'd be down to help with that too. I can come back someday and help you guys more specifically for that. Move stuff around, get my hands dirty, and yes.
Yeah, I think for me, as a worship leader, it's just communicating with the sound man. Sometimes I need something like I can't hear myself, so I actually have to do it and people can see me. So what are some of the things that you can do to kind of help?
Well, yeah, exactly. That's why, remember I talked about a proper sound check. You have to have a good sound check where you go over each instrument and you sing at the level that you should be singing, and you sound check at the level that you're going to be singing. And then you make sure that the audio engineers are engaged with you, that they're not, you know, out doing other stuff, but that they're here, present, and that should help. Because when you don't give it that enough time, your sound check should take at least 20 minutes. Not practice time, just going through each instrument, making sure that you have good volumes out there. And if you can't hear yourself, a lot of times it's not that you're not out there, it's that your monitor system is not good. So if they bring you up, you might be overpowering everything, and then that doesn't make sense. That's why having in-ear monitors is the best option. Or having, you know, these are good, but it's just hard to make everybody happy on one because everybody wants to hear themselves more. And yeah, that's my suggestion for that. Yes. Okay. Yeah, can you?
Oh,
Ableton, you said?
yeah, my name is Genesis Valero.
What's up?
Daughter Church of El Cervantes. Yeah, we just have like a little bleeding issue. Like, you know how you mentioned about like left and right, 1 and 2. Like when there's like quiet moments where like you could hear the click.
Oh, you guys use Click?
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
So there's like a little, like in term, like especially when everyone have their on, when everyone have their in-ears on, there's like a little bleed of the click, the metronome, and the click tracks.
Sometimes it might be that somebody's click is too loud on their in-ears and it's
And
coming
the
out to
mic
the
is
mics.
picking it up?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or somebody's only having one in-ear in
Okay.
and they have the other one out and it's just sounding.
Yeah. Okay.
So you want to have both in-ears in
Yeah.
or have one out and not super loud.
Almost all of it. Okay,
Yeah.
Maybe
That's usually the problem.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a patching problem.
Okay.
That's cool that you guys have that. And how's you use Ableton?
Yes.
Do you use multi-tracks as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Some songs.
Okay, cool.
But-
Awesome.
yeah,
That's
but-
cool to
but-
hear.
Yeah.
And it makes a big difference, right?
Yes. It makes the band tighter.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So,
tag and everything.
so they're doing it in Vallejo. So you guys can learn from them as well. If you have any questions, I'm sure you guys could share knowledge on that. But when you could you tell from your experience when you went from no multi-tracks to multi-tracks, even though it took time, it's a difference, right?
Yeah. It's well in the beginning it was a challenge.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. It made the band tighter, like
Yeah.
all tempos and everything. When we use multi-tracks, it fills in a lot of gaps and spaces that we
Yeah.
can't fill in because we basically a 5-piece band.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so sometimes only four people.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah,
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you guys are using that. And there's always ways to keep improving and keep learning, and
Yes, yes.
I'm still learning, you know.
I'm learning a lot right now.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad. Cool. So, yeah, that should help. Definitely. Proper sound check and proper monitoring system. And, yeah, I know it's a lot of information, but you guys have done great today. I'm proud of you guys. Thank you for listening to me and giving me your time and your trust. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you guys for inviting me. Thank you, pastors. Appreciate it. So that's all I have. Let's end in prayer, yeah? Okay, dear Heavenly Father, we thank you. We exalt you, Lord. We pray, God, that you may engrave these principles into each person that's here today, Lord, and that it may benefit, Lord, the building of your church, the building of your kingdom, Father, here on earth. We thank you, Lord, because you are a God of excellence. You're a creative God, and we just want to be more like you, God. And we love you, Jesus. In your Son, we pray. Amen. Awesome. Thank you, guys.